Europe can use a lot. We have, very diverse continent, and I think we can use it in our advantage. Now, let me use a couple of, points which I shared with, we were in Klaus 2 weeks ago at the informal meeting of the European Competitiveness Council, and I put there it's a subset of the points I addressed there. I think the point number one, we need to support, funding. And what Klaus said, there is a VC model, but there are also, we need to be innovative, whether it's bonds or, other models. There is like best practices from the past, this Britain's University Challenge Scheme, or the Flemish Investment Board here in Belgium, right? That's point number one, so support funding. The other one, it's about education. Again, it was mentioned by Andy, and he mentioned Korea. I can tell you, I addressed the group of the Korean industrialists like 3 weeks ago. And in Korea, ladies and gentlemen, education is mantra for each and every individual and each and every company and for the whole, country. And that's the second point, invest in education. The third point is support innovative companies. And it's not only we talk in Prague about the Small Business Act, what Commissioner Verheugen offered, and it's great. It's about administrative burden. But then it's really about, because if you think about the startups, and I'm the software engineer by profession, and I started one company 20 years ago, you have a burden in terms of the tax, social money you need to pay. And there are already, a couple of great initiatives like in France, there are more than 2,000 companies in that initiative, how you can help them. And last but not least, it is really about encouraging innovation. And here I will follow what was said in the first session. Because now the tendency will be to use those recovery and stimulus packages to fix the current economy. And if you look at the competitiveness mix, it's of course about the GDP, unemployment, all of that, and we need to do it. But then it's about the quality of the public sector, it's about the quality of the infrastructure, whether it's basic or R&D, healthcare, education, and it's also about the business environment. So I encourage all governments and the European Commission to really take balanced approach, because you can fix economy in 1+ year, but if you wanted to see some results in healthcare system, it's 5+ years. Education is 10+ years. And there are indeed huge challenges, whether it's education, healthcare, energy, environment, where technology can help a lot. And there's a huge opportunity for innovation, because today, if I look and study the budget of the European countries, majority of them, 80% of the state budgets, it's mandatory cost. It's and only 20% they can really invest. And imagine, and you know that, for example, chronic diseases are 6.8% of the GDP in Europe. Imagine that we will be able to lever it through the smart usage of technology and invest 2% more on innovation. That's, I think, it's possible. Because it's not only about the crisis, but Europe still needs to address three big challenges: demography, productivity, and energy and resources. And here I think innovations got a huge, huge opportunity to help.
Jan, thank you for that review. Just looking at your point, you emphasise the mega regions that are producing 2/3 of GDP and 90% of innovation, the 3 T's, talent, technology, infrastructure and tolerance, and then some of the challenges that arise. On this broader theme of global cooperation and innovation policy, do you see any particular challenges that more than others should lend themselves to that kind of perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the healthcare is the challenge for everybody in the world. And United States is spending almost 16%. It's one of the 4 priorities for Obama government. And it's also for in Europe, it's the same, in Africa. And I think healthcare is the one environment. If you think about the chronic diseases, if you think about the patient, records, today, you are, as much as the money is concerned, you are very much empowered. If you travel, South Africa, Ireland, whatever, Slovenia, you can pay online, you have your credit cards. But the most important thing for you in your life, it's your, health. And here you are not empowered by technology yet, right? Because that information is not traveling with you even in your country. So I would say healthcare is obvious one.
Thank you. It's my great pleasure to welcome on our panel this morning the Commissioner, Janez Potočnik, who has the responsibility for a good deal of the research framework programs and the thinking on the evolution of the science area and so on. Commissioner, you know our theme, the big issues and whether some of them lend themselves more particularly to global response. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ben. Good morning to everybody. So I will try to present a view on international cooperation, why and what, in 4 minutes, if I understand well. So we are living in times of current economic and financial crisis, and the things which you said, Jan, was pretty exactly what I believe also. I think it's very important that we think in what shape we will come out of the crisis, and that's for detriment of the future. But at the same time, when we are dealing with that, I think it's extremely important that we do not forget the things which we have been patiently, consistently dealing with before the economic and financial crisis emerged. Everything, from the things which you mentioned, healthcare, of course, climate change, of course, energy of the future, potential pandemics, then the questions which are related to drinking water, food in the future, migration, global, security, everything, practically what I mentioned, it's an issue which can be dealt in the best way globally. So the fact is that the 21st century is the century where we are much more interconnected, interdependent, and where multipolarity is becoming obvious. So we have around us Chinese, India, also from South America, countries which are really coming very fast, which is good, which is, I think, something which we should appreciate. But of course, it's opening some of the issues which we have to address also here in Europe. For me, the 21st century is actually the century of increased fragility, where I do believe that we would need to go in two directions. One is sustainability. Sustainability if we talk about profits, or if we talk about environment or social security. The other is global governance. Because of this interconnectivity of the world interdependence, we can simply not deal with those problems without being interrelated and without taking a global responsibility. So individual responsibility and global responsibility in those days, it's certainly increasing. I do believe that raison d'etre of the European Union, it's not that it's changing, but it's getting additional argument why we should cooperate. We all know that raison d'etre of the European Union, rooted back in the times after the Second World War, is quite clear. It is peace, it is security, it is stability, and it will always remain. Even if we take it sometimes as granted, this is simply not so, and it's a mistake. But nowadays, what it's needed globally, because of the things which I said before, it's much more cooperation. And what the world today needs, it's the Europe which speaks with one voice, which is clear, and which is taking also the leadership in some areas, for example, in the climate change. So, but not only the world, also us Europeans, we need a strong Europe which will speak clear language and which will follow exactly these things, which will be able to give us the possibility that we are between the most competitive in the world in the future, and which will, of course, give us also the possibility that we jointly answer some of the questions which I underlined before. So we have a new additional raison d'etre of our strengthened cooperation in European Union. The role of R&D in this context, I think it's clear. Nobody should. I would not go into details of that. From the greening of the economies to aging of population, healthcare, education, these are the things which will determine also our capacity of being competitive